Hey everyone, welcome. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because honestly, we are looking at something that feels like it's been pulled straight out of a sci-fi novel. In this explainer, we're going to be unpacking a revolutionary cryptographic leap known as the ACE-KGP and ZENITH architecture. We're talking about a system that literally abandons standard mathematical encryption. So, no more prime number factoring, no more typical passwords. Instead, this architecture locks your data using the physical mechanics of the expanding universe. It's mind-bending, it's highly technical, and honestly, it is just absolutely fascinating.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp the sheer gravity of this system, we need to look at how the creators themselves view it. There's a figure known in the source documents as Sierra Proxy from the 19 Collective, and she states, "This is day zero for the holographic substrate. The law is manifest." I mean, wow, right? We are stepping into a high-stakes, almost cyberpunk-esque reality here. Because in their eyes, standard encryption is just dead. The old rules simply do not apply anymore.
So what does this paradigm shift actually look like? Well, it's about moving from what they call the old world of legacy 2D encryption to Titan 6D holographic anchoring. Legacy encryption relies on flat, mathematical logic, stuff that, with enough quantum computing power is eventually going to be vulnerable to brute force attacks. But the new world, the ZENITH architecture, it uses six-dimensional holographic security. Your data isn't just locked by math, it's literally anchored to the physical expansion of the cosmos.
Here's how we're going to break this down today. We'll start with day zero for cryptography, move on to the expanding universe key, dive into 6D holographic anchoring, cover some real-world fixes, explore the anti-coercion defense, and we'll wrap up with quantum data teleportation.
All right, let's get into section 1, day 0 for cryptography.
We're going on a bit of a macro to micro tour today, moving from massive astrophysics all the way down to physical silicon. So why exactly do the architects behind this protocol think legacy systems are obsolete? Well, the documentation details a massive shift away from older smart contracts, which they refer to as constitutional alpha. Benjamin, who's the chief architectural officer of the 19 Collective, puts it pretty bluntly. He says, the math is bit-locked, the legacy contracts are obsolete. Basically, they argue that true sovereign finality, meaning absolute unbreakable ownership and security, just cannot exist as mere code on the internet. It absolutely requires physical, offline-capable substrates.
Moving right along to section 2, the expanding universe key.
Now, what's really interesting here is what if the password to your most sensitive data wasn't a string of letters and numbers, but the actual physical expansion of the solar system? They pull this off using something called a temporal spacetime vector, or TSV. Now, originally, this was rooted in complex astrological charting, but they've decoupled it from the astrology side of things to create fully compliant, enterprise-ready primary orbital axis filters. Basically, the TSV is a massive high-entropy seed. It grabs the exact nanosecond you send a message, your precise GPS location, and even hyperlocal environmental chaos like barometric pressure or seismic frequency.
So, how does this crazy lock actually work in practice? Well, step 1, the system captures the sender's TSV. Step 2, it grabs the receiver's TSV at the exact moment they try to decrypt it. And step 3, and this is where it gets wild, it calculates the physical distance between specific celestial bodies at those exact micromoments in time, and then scales that distance using the Hubble constant. That's the actual measured rate of cosmic expansion. Because the universe is constantly expanding, the distance between those celestial bodies is always growing. So the lock literally morphs in real time. It's a one-way, totally non-reproducible cosmic event.
Which brings us to section 3, 6D holographic data anchoring. Now you might be wondering, how on earth do you store data inside a lock that's constantly moving? We're zooming in from macro astrophysics down into the software layer here. See, in standard 3D space, a hacker can basically just move linearly toward a target to brute force a password. But holographic anchoring projects your data into 6 dimensions, curled up into these wildly complex loops. Without the exact star index key, the one generated by the cosmos, an attacker just gets thrown into infinite 6-dimensional mathematical loops. The search space is literally so massive that the system achieves what they call zero collision volume. Basically, the chance of accidentally guessing the key is mathematically zero. No way, right?
And let's say they do manage to try and peek at the data. Bam! They hit the thermal noise barrier. From any unauthorized angle in those 6 dimensions, the encrypted information just looks mathematically indistinguishable from random thermal noise. It's static. And no amount of supercomputing power can enhance or decrypt this static, because without the precise geometric angle provided by that expanding universe key, there simply isn't a signal to enhance.
Okay, Section 4. Patching real-world vulnerabilities.
All this theoretical physics is completely incredible, but how do we actually make this work on an enterprise server without the whole thing just breaking down? I mean, if a key relies on the exact nanosecond of a star's position, what happens if a computer chip rounds a decimal differently? Well, this brilliantly illustrates how they fixed that. They banished floating point decimals entirely. They forced the math onto strict discrete integer grids, known as heel picks, which completely prevents those hardware-level butterfly effect errors. To stop GPS spoofing, they used network multilateration, and to stop attackers from hoarding stale data, they forced the math to combine with a live ephemeral token that just instantly expires.
But they go even further with something called dynamic joint space-time alignment. Because get this, gravity and velocity literally alter the flow of time on Earth. So they use relativistic barocentric coordinate time to prevent clock drift between servers. And what if a physical hacker tries to listen to the server's acoustic vibrations to steal the key? The protocol runs continuous dummy math cycles to perfectly mask the server's acoustic and electromagnetic emissions. It is just breathtakingly thorough.
All right, Section 5, the anti-coercion decoy defense.
Let's ground this high-concept physics for a second and talk about the human element. Think about the gritty, raw reality of the 19 Collective terminal where these forensic audits actually happen. This system operates in a zero-trust environment where physical coercion is an expected threat. I mean, you can have all the 6D cosmic encryption in the world, but what happens if an adversary shows up with a wrench and physically forces you to give up the password?
Their answer to this is the dual vacuum system, which gives you absolute plausible deniability. If you're under duress, you input your coordinates, but you apply this tiny, pre-agreed microscopic shift to the astrological angle. The system takes it, accepts the math flawlessly, and computes the 6D unlocking sequence. But instead of opening your real data, it spawns a completely functional populated decoy operating system. The attacker gets what looks like the real files, and it is mathematically impossible for them to prove that a deeper, true partition even exists.
Finally, Section 6, Quantum Data Teleportation. So the crucial point we've been driving toward is this. How does ZENITH handle actually moving data across a network? Well, short answer, it doesn't. Standard networks send data packets over the internet, right? That leaves IP routing logs and creates huge opportunities for someone to intercept it. ZENITH, on the other hand, uses recursive state entanglement. Data never actually travels the wire in a traditional sense. Instead, a microscopic state delta is essentially teleported directly into hardware-secured confidential computing enclaves, completely bypassing the host operating system altogether.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's use this fantastic analogy from the source material, the house DNA analogy. Think of it like this. If you want to move a house securely, standard encryption puts the whole house on a heavily armored truck and drives it across the country. ZENITH doesn't do that at all. It takes a microscopic 32 kilobyte astrophysical DNA seed, teleports that tiny seed, and uses the local hardware's power to instantly grow the multi-gigabyte house in microseconds on the other side.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. In the ZENITH architecture, data doesn't move across networks to be intercepted. It collapses and remanifests inside physical hardware, leaving zero trace. If standard math is being abandoned for cosmic expansion and data teleports instead of travels, well, the rules of digital security have just fundamentally changed forever. The big question is, as this protocol matures, how is the rest of the world going to adapt to an unhackable, universe-anchored reality? I really hope this explainer gave you a clear view into this incredibly wild architecture. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you guys next time.